Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and special guest, Henry Abbott. How are you, sir?
How's it going, man? David's in Las Vegas.
He is.
He's a little stressed.
He's in Vegas. He's watching Summer League. He's meeting with people he wants to meet with. I bet there are people who want to meet with him that he doesn't want to meet with. So he's trying to duck those people while he's watching games and talking to his guys. It's a lot. He's got no time for this right now.
He called me yesterday, and he I've known him for a long time. I've never heard him talk so fast. He was just like I don't really even know what the deal is. Like, he doesn't have to do anything, right?
Henry, he was prepping for this on the pods before. He was like, and then I got to go between Thomas Mack, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, but you know, just he was like, don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know where I am. I'm like, you're gonna wear I teased him. He's gonna wear a disguise, like glasses and shit, so no one knows where the heck he is.
He told me that he was sitting for a time like in the back row with a player who he's friends with, and they're like watching a game together, and it's delightful. And then he sent the player away. Why? Because the player was getting, now and again, someone would like dap him up and say hi or whatever, and
David didn't want to have to deal with that near him at all.
What? He's playing. I do think there's a reason for this, and he could explain it. But like, as he was explaining to me how stressed he is, I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm sorry that it's winding you up, but I think you're okay, buddy. Like,
meanwhile, the rest of the NBA media is like, Summer League, my favorite week of the year. Like,
flops.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's having a great time. Not David.
Not David, yeah. But he's working on some stuff. We'll be publishing. He's in our strange like download of the bazillion items in his head right now. He was just like just handing me insight. But he has a lot of deep feelings about everything. 100 players, and teams and whatever, and a bunch of stuff. And like, it's going to be his plan is that he's obviously way too busy to write about that right now. But on the flight home, we're going to get the big download. So later this week, we're going to take the cloud computing situation that's in his head, and we're going to put it in everyone else's head.
Wait, imagine David on the plane, and he's like, I'm typing too slow. And he decides to otter, and the person next to him is like, fuck, guy, like, what are you doing?
We use this transcription app all the time. And when we first started using it, it was like just the convenience of recording. Here's what really happens. Like, David just calls any one of us who works here at any time of day or night.
And just talks.
And then just starts saying stuff. And then later we're like, oh, that would have been a good story. So we started just using this app to just transcribe it. It helps a lot.
It's huge. It's very helpful.
But now it's basic. I don't even think he writes anymore, right? Like,
he just talks into Otter now.
Every now and again, he'll be like, yeah, I guess I should find my laptop. It's like, you don't have your laptop?
He's great. He's great. This is the beauty of David Thorpe. It's a wonderful world that we all orbit around. It's great. He's got lots of insight. Well, those of you guys know who listen, David, by and large, hates Summer League because it's bad basketball. Guys don't know what they're doing. Coaches don't know what they're doing. Everybody doesn't know what they're doing. But his big thing is the players that are there. What's your plan? That's the guys he's working on. If you're there, and then I'm like, okay, can you score 30 efficiently? All these little nuggets he gives us. And I remember after Wemby's first game, where he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. There were moments in the game where I thought, oh man, I put in our chat. I was like, he just looked like indecisive at time. He'd catch the ball and think about what I'm going to do next. David writes back, sometimes, all the time. He's had one practice. He has no idea what's going on. And David had lunch with a player or dinner with a player on the Spurs who said, I mean, we've had one practice. Like, he doesn't know any of our plays, of our concepts. Right? Like, it's going to take some time, right?
You know how disoriented I feel after one night in Vegas?
But you saw, Henry, even in that first game, the tools and the things, you're like, well, clearly this is why he was drafted number one. You're like, oh no, this guy's the real deal. And then in his last game, last night, he shot the ball better, scored a ton, 27 and 12, like did a bunch of things on defense. It's like, okay, David, of course, will give you way more detail. I'm like, I'm not impressed by any of that scoring stuff or whatever. But he seemed to, at least to my eyes, Henry, be more decisive. When he caught the ball, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. Whether it's suited or not, he had a plan.
And like, he's been playing professionally in France, and he never looked like lost on the court in France, right? He just seemed like he was toying with people at times, right? Like, super confident dude. We were recently discussing the worry that he has like a God complex, and that might be his shortcoming, right? Like, so, that one game seemed like it wasn't going to be what stuck, right? That wasn't going to be the thing. To me, I'm like, tools are seldom the answer to the problem. They're usually just like, the beginning to the answer to the problem, right? And so he's like, like Jokic or Shaq in his time, like that. There's like this scouting fantasy that like there's someone who just has like longer levers to the degree that nothing else matters,
right?
And we're just gonna win. And it's like usually it's like, no, you have to really be able to play. But like to me, like in his second game, it was more like, well, fuck, like
he's playing now. Oh,
I mean, he just stands there and puts the ball above his head, and the whole defense is like looks like little first graders.
Right. Well, because here's the thing: if he holds it here and you try to get it, you're gonna foul him probably, right? So okay, I'm going to the free throw line, so you're just gonna watch. Like, all right, guess we'll just see what he does next.
I mean, there's a reason that he was generating so much hype, but like,
yes.
But also, I guess it's sort of maybe a little bit analogous to Dirk, where it's like the idea is, you just can't get to that shot, right?
Yeah.
And it was largely true. He did have a super weapon, like almost like Kareem's skyhook equivalent, right? But that doesn't mean he was unguardable one every game, right? Like defenders really did bother Dirk, and in that case, it was David Thorpe would love to spend 90 minutes telling you, it was people who prevented him from being able to put it on the floor, like little tiny harassing gnats, really did bother Dirk, right?
Yep.
There'll be stuff that bothers Victor,
for sure,
and it won't be from these dudes, right? It'll be from, I don't know who. Someone's going to be really giving him a hard time, though, right?
Well, it's all those tall, lanky super scorer guys, right? Because early in KD's career it was Chris Paul. Chris Paul is, if we're being generous, 6 feet tall, right? Yeah. For being generous, but Chris is. Strong in the butt muscles we were talking about to start off air. He gets up under a lanky, lighter KD, and that causes problems because now I can't put the ball down because you're going to take it from me. And Chris Paul loves taking the ball away from people, right? It's just problematic. So, but you work around that, and reps in the league will give you workarounds. Like, oh, well, this guy's coming, not doing that anymore. And you'll learn, I'm going to run a pin down and catch shoot here instead. And realize my advantage is I'm so tall. If I keep it up here, he can never get it. Right. So that's my game. And David said that to us, right? Like they're going to have to scheme for him. Scheme meaning San Antonio, not defenders. Scheme to use him properly as opposed to just throwing him out there with all the tools, as you say, and having him just do Lord knows what.
Well, we don't really know who he guards best, right? Like once those really good scores are out there, like, do you put him on Julius Randle?
Maybe not.
Maybe he's amazing.
I don't know. We don't know. We can see it.
Probably people who watched him in France, I did not, would tell you we know something about that, right? But or does he have to play next to, like some beefcake dude, right? Maybe, but I and will he get in foul trouble all the time? I don't know. But
who knows?
The fact is, the tools are like ridiculous.
Pretty fucking good. Well, that's everyone's thing, right? It's like, you have the two beefy centers in the league are Embiid and Jokic, right? And they're like, what's he going to do against them? I'm like, well, what does anybody do against them? They fucking lose. Whatever. It's fine. Like they'll figure out whatever his thing is and maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Whatever.
Yeah. But it's going to be fun to watch and he's smart. And I just, the only, like everyone else, I'm like, just hope he doesn't get hurt.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And of course, with guys of that size, everyone worries about lower body extremities, right? The feet. That's the one. Because you start getting Liz Frank and Jones fractures and those kinds of things. And it's just, that's what ended Yao Ming's career. That's what ended Craig Oden's career. Like a litany of big men. Once the feet, Bill Walton to go all the way back. Like once the feet start having problems, you just have issues, right? And but Victor seems to be having a team around him that understands that and all the work he does, like you'll see him on the sidelines before games. It looks kind of crazy to people. They're like, why is this guy crawling barefoot and like using his toes only? It's like, because he's got to fucking stretch all those things out, dude. Like,
I don't know, but I like it.
Yeah. If it's crazy, I'm like, oh no, the crazier the better. I'm like, it might work.
I've dealt with my own health issues and I am very often the weirdo doing the stuff that people don't understand. So I'm just like, I'm a weird guy's corner. Like whoever's doing the weird warm-up stuff. Did you bring a bag of little tools and devices? Great, my friend. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I show up places with like, my psoas releasing stick and, medicine ball that I'm going to put sort of inappropriate places.
Yeah.
It's just, we're all doing what we got to do, man. Just trying to get along.
I mean, the body has to activate, right? And that's, I think, the thing that people don't realize. And when you are 7'4", that's a lot of shit to activate and unfurl and like, because it's not 7 foot. First of all, no one's designed to play NBA basketball, but 7'4" lanky people, especially not designed to play basketball. So,
yeah.
You know,
and I think also like the key is usually the hips, and we're a little bit culturally
stupid.
Well, no, it's just like it's a little iffy, right? There's like that's where we poop and pee, and that's where like it's a little private, like, but that's where you got to do the work, right? And like everything that you do where you're like really moving your hips is something that's like a little bit questionable on the court during NBA warm-up in front of a stadium, but that's what you got to do nonetheless.
That's
so
fine. And it's not like, and the thing is, he's so big. So, it's a little behind the curtain for you, but most of the times, guys, like in NBA arenas, all that stuff happens like in the bowels, right? Like in the hallways and stuff and whatever. Victor's too big. He can't be doing that shit in the hallways. He's got to do it out on the floor where there's a little more wide space to do it. So, yeah, it's going to be weird. So get early to San Antonio games.
Man. Like, similarly, like your locker room is like a curtain with like, like there isn't really a locker room.
Yeah, because that's not a real NBA arena. It's like a, weirdo.
But like the whole like, oh, we're going to run with the trainer back. It's like, no, they're just running like, if you crane your neck from the stands, you can see where they're just right over there. And like, it's, I don't know. You probably saw like before Victor's first game when he like is hanging out, backstage with his team. It's like, they're just like, they're like 15 feet off the court in this little,
underneath the stand. And Victor actually had to like duck his head down because like, I can't just stand here.
And then in terms of like his performance being a little off in that game, like, did you notice like every single person around him had their phone out, including people who work for the team, people who work like, just making a video of him. I'm like,
it's got to be a weird experience.
I don't know what they recommend for your like mental preparation, but it's probably
that can't
like
be good.
Eyes closed, listening to some like guided meditation thing. This is the exact opposite.
Yes, the exact opposite. Hopefully, the 9-day wonderment will kind of die down, but I think rookie year is going to be kind of a circus every time they go somewhere, especially on the road, especially. It's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
Britney Spears, like.
That was so weird. So it's funny. I said to David, I go, David, you bet you didn't hear this. And so I went through the whole thing. He's like, wow. He's like, okay, I did not hear that. But Jarod, why would you think I wouldn't hear that? I go, David, because you don't traffic in these sites. And he's like, you're right. I don't. I was like, yeah, you wouldn't know about that.
That was so.
It was just bizarre.
Like she kind of tries to slap a celebrity on the back to get his attention. This is my take. And then. And someone says, please don't, or slaps her hand away.
Right.
And then
it
she's
hits
yelling,
her.
Welcome to America. It's like, what is you think in France you could just go slapping Victor Wembanyama when you want to?
Yeah, definitely not in France. Oh, no. It's just, but it's also, Henry, this is this whole thing about like celebrity culture and this feeling, this right that people feel as though they have to like enter famous people's space and like demand things of them. It's like, but you don't. Like, I'm sorry. Like you can maybe ask for an autograph if they're nice, they can give it to you, but like they don't owe you any kind of like, let me talk to you and like engage and entertain, especially someone who's like, okay, I'm spending extended time here. I'm not from here, right? Like this is now my new home. At least it's going to be during the season for a while. Like it's weird, man. It's just weird.
Well, there's they do make a ton of money because we feel like they're our best friends, like that's why they're so valuable, right? Like that's why you put, who's a good example? I don't know. Like if you put LeBron in an ad, then like we know LeBron, and so in a way that feels personal. So then it's like, oh, he recommends
that I drink Sprite or whatever. Yeah. So so it's great,
right? Like so then we're excited about it. So I think like he gets that money, but that doesn't mean there's a bunch of people programmed out there, in part by him, to just like obsess about how close they are. Not close, man. He doesn't know you at all, and he doesn't care about you.
He doesn't. Yeah. And then it's also the fact that there is a bit of the carnival aspect to it, right? Which is like he is an abnormally large human being, and it is disorienting to the eyes because you're just like, what the? Like, I mean, all NBA guys are, but when you hang around the NBA,
Victor, though, especially, like,
you're just like, what the? This is just strange. So you're gawking, right? Like you're at the, oh, look at this.
It's just a surprising number of NBA players can hide. Like people just won't notice they're there.
Right.
You dress a little differently or whatever, but like Victor's never going to have
ever. I mean, Kareem talked about that, like coming up, like all the big, like they just can't. And then you have guys like Shaq who just love it, right? Because there's the big, like, well, I'm going to be a bully when I want to be, and then I'm going to be like the goofy, lovable, playable giant in the other ways, And that's like, I guess his coping mechanism.
Maybe I told you this Bob Costas story to tell you this. So like, it was like after All-Star game. If you want to meet NBA players, the place to go is the airport the Monday morning after the All-Star game because everyone has to fly commercial that day because There aren't enough private jets in the world to take all the Super Bowl they need to go. So I was getting a plane, I think probably from Atlanta back to New York, and we're waiting in the little boarding area, and it's like a who's who of the league. And I'm sitting next to this guy who's like the biggest know-it-all kind of jerk, loudmouth fan who's with his girlfriend or wife, and directly across from them, almost to the pitching, is Shaquille O'Neal, who actually does have the ability to kind of shrink down into a seat in like a surprisingly small way.
Oh, nice.
And he's maybe a tad tired after a long night, and so he's kind of shrunk down, and well within earshot, and like maybe 10 seats down is Bob Costas, who I don't know if you know this, but Bob Costas is like short,
little man,
and Bob Costas is wearing sunglasses, and this guy says he's like really loudly, he's like, "Oh my God, I don't know why Bob Costas would bother wearing sunglasses. Like when you're that level of famous, everyone's just gonna recognize you. Like you might as well just welcome it, like blah blah." And he goes on and on and on, like about how celebrities should just acknowledge it. Well, he does not realize Shaquille O'Neal's right there. like, dude, you're awesome. Almost touching the 7'1" celebrity. How about that guy?
The massive giant that you missed right across from you.
And then Shaq, we got on the plane, Shaq had a middle coach seat.
How does that work?
I don't know, but that's what happened. Yeah.
Like, I'm just like anatomically, like, how does that work?
He's just tough. You know, he's just getting it out.
He's just like, you got to bring both the armrests up, right? Because I mean, what?
I don't know, man. He was in there. It was like, you know, when you get on the plane, you see this. What you see
top
is
of the heads.
Strange bunch of heads, right? But there's like
one head that's like, oh, I know that guy.
Definitely Shaquille O'Neal. Well, Bob Costas is like, looks like a child sitting on a toadstool in first class, like just like a little like oh, there's so much room.
Yeah, it's like, Bob, you and Shaq should probably switch. What do you think? All right, Summer League's happening. One of the great or interesting things about Summer League is the prognostications people make, right? After one game, 2 games, whatever. And it's like, oh my God, this person's amazing. And it's like, okay, maybe they are, maybe they're not. You know, it's tough. As Dave would tell you, tough to tell, right? Because it's not real ball. But Tari Eason is on the Houston Rockets, someone who last year had a very good summer league and had a very good rookie season last year. I believe he was net neutral last year and on estimated plus minus, which pretty good for a rookie because most rookies are net negatives. He's very good on defense last year. But this year in summer league, obviously after a year of NBA ball, surprise, surprise, he looks even better in summer league. Well, yeah, because he's got his ass kicked in the NBA with real basketball. And I was like, no, I get this. I know how to dominate this. So you had a thought about who else might be a Tari Eason type of person.
Yeah, I highlighted him a little bit because, like, listening to the broadcast, like, it just seems to me like it's a Tari Eason party. The entire, like, everyone just knows now he's like the MVP, right? Like, and I agree. I'm a big, that was a great pick, right? That was a great pick. And, you know, and who doesn't love this, does the dirty work kind of player, right? But he's the opposite of Victor in terms of tools. I mean, not that he definitely has like an NBA
6'8",
measurement. But, you know, this time of year when we're assessing, like, there's a whole bunch of players who are physically Tari Eason, right? And it's very hard to find anyone who will, like, those commentators are not losing their mind for, like, you know, every 6'8" guy.
Yeah, true.
Right? And like, you know, or every guy who's scrappy or every guy who plays D or whatever. No, it's a sea of them, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Like, you know, he got some playing time because he happened to play on the Rockets, and then he did stuff that you know, who knows, maybe 100 guys could do that, probably not,
right?
But now I think he just passed into like I was joking, like when Jason Kidd used to, when in the earliest days of advanced stats, he had crazy advanced stats, and people would know that, and then they would know that there was a lot they didn't notice about what happens on the court, which is just the state we all live in. And then he would do anything. Like, I mean, I remember like literally like watching a broadcast when he was in his prime, and he stood at the free throw line and caught a rebound that came straight to him.
It was like, oh my God!
Like, see, he's just got the perfect makeup, you know, hand-eye coordination. He's a big physical type guard. He knows how to rebound. It's like he just fucking stood there. Like, that's all he did on that one. I mean, we could go off on how great he is, but that's not the point. The point is like Tari Eason right now, I think, is flying on the wings of commentary a little bit too, right? And And so I think that we'll find that there's going to be, I would really respect the person who could pick that player now,
right?
Who we're going to do that for next year, right?
Like, even
last year, the time Tari Eason was like one of 10 or 20 or 30 who got that much love, right? Like now he's like turned into this really everybody's favorite.
And the Rockets, by the way, got a ton of talent on that team. Like, we'll see what Ime Udoka can do with them come October or September, actually, when training camp starts. Fred VanVleet is an adult in the locker room. That will help get guys to be a little more serious and understand what it means to be a professional. I know Ime is a hard-line kind of coach, so, that should be helpful, I hope, for Jalen Green and some of those young guys who probably, are a little too, maybe not as careful about every possession as they should be, right? And valuing the basketball. So, no, with Tari and Jabari Smith, who I want to talk about now. Okay, is this Jabari Smith Jr. scoring explosion real or what? Back-to-back 30-plus point games. And again, he has the benefit of, I played in the NBA for real last year, got my ass kicked. Tari Eason was a better rookie than him on estimated plus-minus. Like most rookies, he's a negative, net negative. But he's looking like, oh no, like he knows some stuff and he's found some things.
And he's like, has he lost weight? I feel like he's like
yeah,
right. But he's like strong, but super lean and mobile, and like yeah, this is just look. Let's admit that he probably had some really bad nights of the last year and made certain, resolutions, right? And he did that work, right? He went and did the someone kicked sand in his face, and then he like went to the gym and like, you're not gonna kick sand in my face anymore, right? And this is act 2, right? And I guess this is why David doesn't like to project any players, right? So it's really hard to get, because like we don't know who's going, like everyone's gonna get sand kicked in their face, and then who will then resolve to get better. And we loved him on this site
we did
last year. David was very clear about taking him number 1 overall. Like this is exactly why, right?
Yeah.
Like, and how old is he? Like,
20?
Yeah, it's like he's not late.
No.
You know
I mean? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then like the Rockets were like really fun to make fun of.
20 years old.
He's 20 years old. Yeah. So the Rockets were kind of like our bad team, right?
Yeah. They stunk last year. They were terrible.
Kooky owner, kooky front office, kooky players, right? But now it's like, they just dunk everything.
Yeah,
like
they're very athletic.
Just dunk-a-rama. Everyone wants to dunk on you on that team. Like, right?
Yeah, look, if that sort of like competitive want to of doing that, if Ime can figure out how to harness that on the defensive end of the floor, which I know he's going to be focused on because those fools don't guard for shit, if they can like just give effort on that side of the floor, oh man, get out and run and do all that dunking on everybody. They could be a fun young team to really, and one of those weird like, oh, we won whatever, they won 18 games and now look, we won 38 games this year, right? Like they can definitely be that kind of team. But,
they might. I mean, I definitely like the kookiness hasn't totally ended, right? It feels weird to me. Like what is Amen Thompson supposed to think about Fred VanVleet being there?
Well, that's
right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe it's great. Maybe this is perfect, but it's kind of weird. I don't ever buy the like, oh, he's there to help in the structure. It's like, yeah, everybody's always like if Amen Thompson gets so good, Fred VanVleet is going to lose like $80 million to Amen Thompson being really good, right? Like that is not how this goes, people. Like it just maybe once in a while there's like a vet who helps a rookie, but mostly they're competing for minutes and touches and points and jobs, right?
For sure,
dollars, and in some cases. No, never mind.
Well, we know exactly where you're going with that one, and yes, that too. Yes, matter of fact,
is on.
That often breaks up locker rooms in many ways. So
yeah, but yeah. So and the Dillon Brooks thing is crazy, right?
Oh,
I mean, like everything you just said about we're going to be serious now. It's like
right. It's like we got
Dillon Brooks. This is the only player in the NBA who's like good and not invited back to where he used to play because he was like too much of a nut job, right?
But here is the question, and this is the challenge on this team, right? So what Dillon was able to do on the Grizzlies was because he was there from the beginning before those other guys got there and was older. Even though Ja and Tripp were better than him, they kind of felt like, well, we really can't tell him what to do because he's older and he's been here longer than us. Well, that's kind of the same thing that's happening in Houston, right? Like, except he hasn't been there long, but he's older. Is Amen Thompson going to tell him, dude, knock it off? Is Jalen Green going to tell him, knock it off? I guess it's Fred. The only saving grace there is that Ime is like, dude, we're not doing that shit. Like it's the only person who can be like, we're not. But I don't know how that works. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
But like, what percentage of the time is Ime there? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah. Besides like game day and shoot around. Yeah.
Even on the bus sometimes, or like, but they have a lot of time of like, looking, seeing who makes $90 million. Like, I'm gonna do what that guy does, right? Like, that's a thing that is happening.
No, it's the dynamics of an NBA locker room are fascinating because salaries dictate a lot of different things, but just because you're the highest doesn't mean you're actually a leader person. Like, it's just, I mean, that was the Boston Celtics, right? Like, Marcus Smart was like a leader guy calling out Tatum and Brown, but it's like, yeah, but they're better than you. Like, it's a weird scenario how that all works out. But the best teams, they figure out a way to sort of manage, and the worst teams, they are what they are.
Yeah. I always feel like this. Steve Shenbaum's no show. He has this thing, earn the right to be heard, right? And to me, like the person you should listen to is the person whose words result in good outcomes a disproportionate amount of time, right? Like, this is not going to be by age. Are you hearing the dishwasher?
Yeah. Duncan, are you like, come on, bro? Like, we're recording a podcast here. Yeah, come on, man. Like, no dishwashing. Like, come on, bro. Like, this is not how we do a professional podcast. He's a wonderful young man. Just passed his driver's test today, so congrats to Duncan Abbott. Yeah, no. Look, it'll be curious to see. A couple of players that I had my eyes on, Henry, on Summer League. James Wiseman. David sent us a little video of him and him racing back on offense for a dunk. And he was like, "This is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen." And David, as everyone knows, has been very high on James. And I just said, look, I hope that this is the place, being Detroit, that he can incubate and become whatever version of himself he can be. They're young. He fits the timeline, all that. Maybe.
Yeah. And he, I mean, he pops off the screen, right? Like, who's the huge man, right? It's almost like Joel Embiid's out there. I mean, he's not that big, but there's one player who's bigger and he runs around and flies. And, I know that the story is that he's done already and doomed and it was a bad pick and they should have taken LaMelo and blah, blah, blah. And like, but to me, I'm like, man, like, we don't know. Like, we just don't know. He played very little, right? And he played very little in college, and
played even less with the Warriors.
Yeah. You would love to have him on your team now, right? Like, and just let him explore. Let the Pistons be kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Henry. He was expected to go to a championship team and contribute right away. First of all, the Golden State Warriors system on both ends is fucking hard to learn. Like, a rookie, like, what? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, as David said, run around with puppies with their heads cut off. They have zero idea. You want him to what? Be all of a sudden be like this amazing defender, knows how to switch every screen. No, he doesn't. With almost 3 high school games, with barely a full high school season and 3 college games under his belt. Come on, that guy's not gonna. So what wasn't the Warriors saw the talent. It's just the development time track just wasn't going to be what it was for what that team was trying to do, which is win a championship right now.
Well, and like Chet Holmgren right now, right? James came in thinking he was going to be Kevin Durant, right? Like, he wanted to do stuff with the ball and shoot, and which meant at the NBA level, we're asking his brain to adapt to a million different challenging situations, right? And like, they will strip the ball from you and they will make you look stupid, and David's thing was just have him run and get some rebounds and dunk it when he can, put back dunks, this kind of stuff. And like, why that? Like, well, because then he gets to get some A's on some tests, walk a little tall, race, beat people, feel like a winner. And then you can, okay, let's pull you aside and we're going to get another thing. And then after we get that done, we're going to add another thing. And then, he's this guy who's useful in helping you win. And, we'll see what he can become. But he just got D's all over the court.
Yeah.
It's like, no, get some A's, right?
Well, that's what David says, right? Like, he's like, it sounds silly, but no, David, it makes sense. Like, you need success to have success, right? If you're constantly failing every test, like, success is going to be really hard to come by for you, right? Yeah. You need little things. And it's worth pointing out that the Durant model worked because Seattle and Oklahoma City, Seattle's rookie year and Oklahoma City his second year, they were bad. Like, and they were planning to be bad. So it's like, okay, you're going to learn like this. But these teams, Oklahoma City, we think, David and I think, and I'm sure you would agree, they could be top 6 this year in the West. Like, that, we don't got time for you to be bad. We need you to give you a little bit, rim run, and we'll add. But the question is, can you, as a player, ego-wise, subjugate that and be like, okay, this is best for me. I'm going to ace this. In the summertime, I'm going to add and work to my game, right? And then we'll come back and I'll give you another thing and then another thing. But, that's the other part of it, right? Can players' egos sustain being told, but I think I'm Kevin Durant. It's like, yeah, but I want you to be Clint Capella this year instead, in year one.
Well, and most coaches who ever said that in NBA history were kind of racist, kind of wrong, right? Like, they just wanted control, right? And then the players got too much control, and it's like, oh, is it a problem, crisis? It's like, no, it's called Michael Jordan. It's not a crisis. Like, it's fine, right? So, like, you don't really know who's right? There's going to be someone, like, the second you pull up off the dribble and shoot a three, there's going to be someone who's like, oh, my God. Like you're going to have to tune that guy out, right? Yeah. Like, and that's just, if you're good at that, right? But, that's the trick. Is like, what can you really, like, I am positive that there's 500 things that Ja is totally respected for now. But when he first did it, like, everyone on his team was like, you crazy ball hog, right? Like, yeah, you're a maniac. Like, but no, he's like, actually, I got this, right? Like, and so that push and pull is real. But I just think, once you're James Wiseman a month into your time in Golden State and the media is full of you're a bust, like, probably time to recalibrate.
No, 100%. Yeah, and so hopefully with Cade healthy and that crew out there, that should be fun times, and you give him a chance to really do some stuff out in Detroit.
Another team of dunkers, man. Yeah, this is my
dunkers.
This is okay. So little pet theory of mine was like Michael Jordan changed the league. There'd never been a team led by a shooting guard that won a championship before. And so everyone thought you had to have a center, but I'm like, wow, if you have a super athletic shooting guard, then you can win like that. So there were a bunch of knockoff. I started covering the league in the Kendall Gill era.
I remember Kendall Gill. Charlotte Hornets,
like Harold Miner and on and on. There's a million like kind of strapping shooting
athletic
guards.
twos.
And they didn't used to lift weights before, but now they did. Right now we're lifting weights. Now we're getting all these dudes. And what really happened was the defense got incredibly stifling. Right, this became like the Knicks era of like no one can score at all. They went shopping for Michael Jordans and they got Kendall Gills, right? And I think what's happening now is that like there was a little bit just from watching Summer League. I might not have this opinion in the regular season, but like in Summer League, I'm like, I think that everybody was like, we can't really play stiff, slow bigs.
Nope.
So we need to find super long dudes who can really move for defensive reasons. Right? You need someone who can race out a 3-point line, then protect the paint, etc. And so they got everyone in the draft basically is like some kind of Jarris Walker, Thompson twin type like athlete. And the idea is that we're gonna have elite defense, and maybe we will. But what we for sure have is dunk over ammo, right? Like these dudes like to pack it. And I was like, Detroit and Houston were the two teams where I'm like, oh my God, like so many times there's one Shaden Sharp who you're worried about, but on those teams it's like
3-4 dudes.
Yeah. Like the ball could carry them off in any direction and become a tip dunk, and it's like, oh my,
they all want to detonate you.
Like, I love it.
It makes you think of players who, man, came along at a wrong time. Like someone we were talking about in the chat, and I won't say too much about this player, but like Tyrese Thomas, right? It was a 6'9" super athletic dude, right? It's like, let him just dunk over everybody and play D. But, for whatever reason, NBA just didn't quite work out the right way for him because he certainly had the tools, right? Like, but it's not just tools, not just about tools.
You did a lot more than tools. Yeah, exactly right.
You need the right space, man. And, as we've talked about all the time, most of these places are just not it. Don Barlow has been playing well for San Antonio. We love him here, obviously, for obvious reasons. David has a connection to him, of course. But he might even have a roster spot on San Antonio. Well, as of right now, he does not for the actual season. But this is again how teams are so dumb in this league. All teams have a million scouts at these games. How are you not watching that dude and being like, shit, he's not on a guaranteed spot? How's he not already signed at this point? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's young. He's super big. He's strong. He's mobile, and he can play.
Yes,
like everything we're talking about that isn't tools. Like he can. He's had some big performances, including some big performances in the NBA against NBA players. So, but this is the thing. There's like that there's research that basically if you get drafted really high, pardon me,
the anchor effect.
Look who's calling. It's David Thorpe.
It's David Thorpe. Hello, David.
I'm not gonna get it though. I'll call you back. So if you get drafted like 7th and play badly, you're going to keep getting minutes for years.
Yes, because you were a 7th pick.
Yeah. Tom Ball is the opposite, right? Like he was undrafted. And also I think the overtime elite thing is a little bit like I think what happens is some players get like a North Carolina bump or a Duke bump, like and maybe your GM's from Duke, or maybe there's someone in the organization who's like, oh no, trust me, this guy's gonna work out, right? Like
and they don't.
And he doesn't have. There's like Don Barlow doesn't come with like a constituency in the org who's like, oh, those overteam white guys are amazing. But the fact is, he's super good, and there's a bunch of roster spots open, real not two-way spots, but real NBA roster spots right now. And I'm like, are you guys watching the summer league?
No,
is
clearly not.
Better than him, like he's super good. Like, and we'll see that, right? My guess is that San Antonio will keep him, and he'll be on the court next to Victor,
which will be nice.
And everyone's going to start noticing, just like that happened to Bilal Coulibaly, right? It's like, they're going to notice the other guy, right? Like, and he's going to become a big star or whatever. But yeah, if I were some team that needed a young big to run alongside, say Scoot.
I mean, hello, Joe Cronin, Portland. Hello, is this thing on? Are you listening?
I genuinely like check back at the end of the season, whoever they get to play like their next young big in Portland, is that person going to be better and cheaper than Don Barlow? No chance. Like,
nope. And this is the part, Henry. Like, this is the job. Like this is the job. Finding these guys, and why a Don Barlow works out for you is because if he works out like we think he is, and he already, to Henry's point, has made NBA impact and had big games against actual NBA players. This is bonus wins, people. Because he was undrafted, he's not signing any rookie max extension, like none of that crap. You're getting him super cheap, which means he's going to help you win. And that means extra money to spend on other people. That's how you win, when you have guys who perform above their contract level. And Barlow's a perfect candidate for that at 19, 20 years. I think he's 20 now.
Well, and Sam Hinkie did some pretty ruthless stuff with contracts that favors the team, but this would be exactly the kind of player where he would offer him like a 4-year deal with a team option on maybe the last 2 years, which you can't do to first round picks, right? But if you get a player on a deal like that and they're bad, then you spend $4 million and but if they're good, you have them for 4 years at a cheap price. Like he would sign that deal right now.
Yep, for sure.
And you think 4 years from now he's going to be so good?
I just don't. We can't. It's a human thing, right? It's a cognitive bias, right? I mentioned it's the anchor effect. Wherever the first association is with something, that's what we think it always is. As opposed to, well, maybe they got it wrong, right? Like, it's the most easy way to see it is in college, like football and basketball polls. Oh, this team was ranked 10th and they sucked. It's like, oh, they underperformed. Well, no, maybe they were an 18th ranked team all along and they were just improperly ranked at 10th. And now you screwed yourself because you didn't realize what it was. This happens in talent evaluation.
You're 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think on top of that, there's some dishonest stuff, which is like, ain't nobody saying you're a good GM because you brought in Don Barlow, because no one knows who he is.
Yeah.
Right. So if you bring in Dylan Brooks and pay him $90 million, then Stephen A. Smith will say, well, at least you got a dog, right? You went and got, like, for real, like the GM gets a little, a bump. The GM's real job, is keeping the GM's job, right? And Don Barlow doesn't help anyone keep their job.
No.
Because when he makes you look smart is 3 years later. And you're gone already.
Right? Meanwhile, you can put Stephen A. can put a tweet out on Twitter with the X-ray of the dog inside the chest of Dylan Brooks. He got a dog on him, and it's like, okay, that's great.
Then Stephen A. is telling fans that they have a good GM, which is a huge part of what happens in the media these days, right? Like, that's why they're all leaking to Woj, right?
That's exactly
they
right.
want Woj to tell the fans that they're good GMs, and if you're a bad GM, that's really important to you.
Joe Cronin, excellent GM. He has really got things working in Portland.
Yeah. Jimmy Grant for MVP. Yeah.
The thing about Summer League, also why I say, guys, don't lose your mind. It's small sample size, right? Similar to, in a way, that the playoffs are kind of small sample size, right? Not the whole playoffs in its entirety, although it can be depending on how long you go, but a playoff series, right? Whether it goes 4 or 7, that's still a small sample, right? I felt like we saw that with the Heat, right? They were lights out against the Knicks shooting from 3, lights out against the Celtics shooting from 3. And then they played the Nuggets and they weren't lights out, right? It's like, well, they kind of shot how they shot all regular season. It's like, well, this is how these things work. But in Summer League, right, you kind of have this problem, right? These small samples, and you're like, but you have to make I don't know if you have to make proclamations, but you have to like decisions have to be made, right? And so, well, how do I make this decision with only X amount of data?
Yeah, the teams have to make decisions. I feel like the fans and media, it's like, let's say, so like Ryan Rupert had like a so-so first game, right? Like, okay,
right.
But maybe we learned that his floor is lower than we thought, or maybe he had food poisoning.
Maybe,
right. Or maybe he had jet lag, or maybe he got in a fight with his significant other. Like we just don't, like, if you're the team, those things, right? But like from out here, it's like these things happen all the time, right? Like, have you ever had a bad day at work? It's like, of course we all have. Like you make all this money. You're like, just shut up. Like nobody knows how to be perfect every day. Like, it's not a thing. Like, so yeah, like you just want to look at a bunch of games before you think Well, okay, if you want to talk about who played well in game one, great. Yeah. If you want to start talking about who's going to play well in the future, now you got to have a big sample. You
sure.
Just do. Like, or you're just making shit up. Like you're just talking out of your ass.
Like, I did this on Friday night. I put it on Blue Sky. I was like, I'm already annoyed, and Wemby hasn't even played a minute yet, because no matter what happens tonight, it's going to be overreaction. Like, right? And it's just like, guys, like, we have no idea. So many people, respected basketball people on Twitter were like, oh, we told you the hype was too much. This guy's too weak. He can't do X. He can't. It's like all the can't. It's like, okay. And then all of a sudden after game 2, whoa, it's not. We've gone the other way. It's like, guys, like, come on, man. Like, it's 2 games. It's 2 summer league games on top of that. Like, just let this stuff marinate. But we can't. We don't know how to.
Let's make big conclusions and projections in 3 years.
I was going to say, talk to me when 3 years in, when he's 20, 21, let's see. Well, I wonder what he's doing now.
The only thing we really know for sure at this point is that Scoot's amazing.
Well, no. Let's get to Scoot. Henry, of course, loves the Portland Trailblazers, but no, you talked about Scoot a lot on this pod prior to the draft. He was one of P3's draft darlings, right? In that hip measurements, we like this guy. And I think what it basically means is, correct me if I'm wrong, the chances of him getting injured because of how his hips are less than most people that play his style of game with poorer hips. Did I kind of get that right?
Yeah, he didn't train there, but he because his parents owned the gym. But he did get assessed there a year ago, and just in a quiet little comment that no one else seemed to notice, but to me, I'm like, they did sort of reveal that his measurements for the in the categories that are the biggest injury predictors, he measured exceptionally well. So and that all has to do with, like, hips down to the ground, right? So like it just seems, doesn't mean anything, not really, but it just means that, like, look, if you were to draft for injury prevention, right, you would pick this guy.
Well, like, then he gets hurt after his first summer league game, and we're like, oh.
And to be honest, they don't really do shoulders. Like, it's not really part of the assessment.
Right.
Like, so but I think it seems like he's fine. But so that, just like how likely is your player to be around, like that's exciting.
That's very important.
I thought, to be honest, like, let's think about it, like, David was the first one to point this out to me, but he was like, before the draft, he was like, I'm just so sad that whoever the Blazers pick is getting told by the most beloved player in the history of the franchise that this is a bummer. Like, I'm so sad for whoever that is. Like, someone has worked really hard to have the dream come true, and now, like, the press conference is going to be and like and I'm extra sad about this because there's an amazing, if you look it up, Kevin Arnovitz wrote a story about Damian Lillard as a teammate years ago, and he's like, stays all day at the practice facility, takes guys out, takes them shopping.
Very good teammate.
Like, the David Thorpe definition of leadership is breathing spirit into others, and Dame knows exactly how to do that, right?
A+.
Well, he doesn't get an A+ on welcoming Scoot, right? Like,
F- on that.
I mean, it couldn't be where he's literally like, I'm repulsed by your presence, isn't it? Right? Like, the fact that you're here means all my hopes and dreams are dashed, right? Like, I need to go to Miami, and it can only be Miami, right? Like, what message can that send to Scoot? Like, so to me, this is like, it would be understandable if Scoot were a little moody in this interlude, right?
Sure.
And meanwhile, like, I don't know, I'm the only one who was moved by this, but I was very moved. They forced him to do a bunch of interviews when he gets off the plane, and it's like, what can he say? He doesn't even know.
Right.
like, but then he goes to his first summer league practice. This is the same one where there was like a pretty good little Instagram highlight of him like sliding a pass to Shaden Sharp who dunked it. And then he talks to the media and first says how delighted he would be to play with Dame. He hopes he gets to because they've been talking for years and he really respects him. Amazing, right?
Very good.
And then he's basically like, yeah, if I get the rebound, get your cameras ready because here comes Shaden, right? Like he's inspiring Shaden.
Yeah.
Right? Like
the way Dame should be inspiring
4
him.
minutes and he's taking it on. He's like, I'm going to be, the fun's going to come from me. I'm going to make you guys feel safe and excited to play. And I saw like, and then it's, about to be the jump ball of his first summer league game. And he's doing this with his hands. He's doing that. You can't see because it's the podcast, but like he's showing talk. Everybody talk. Let's talk. Right. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the kind of people who leads where the other people like to follow, but he is taking it on that he will be the source of that. And like, I think it's like, like how'd you play? It's like, I think I played pretty smooth.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think that is pretty smooth, Scoot. I agree. Like,
if you were a Blazers fan right now, I know not Henry because he's a more of a level-headed Blazers fan. Look, Scoot, Shaden, Simon, all these young dudes, like, be excited. Like, this is fun. Like, no, you're not going to win a championship this year, but you weren't going to win one even with Dame Slade anyway. So what difference does it make? Right? Like, now it's better because everyone's young and you're like, ooh, we can see the potential here of what can happen down the road.
I became a Blazers fan not at a time that they were exciting, but at the time that I got a Walkman and I could look like I was doing my homework when I was really consuming sports. Right? Like, and it happened, like, no one was really a Blazer fan. I mean, no one I knew was a Blazer fan, but I had a lot of homework to do. And so I listened to my yellow Sony Sport Walkman and listened to Bill Schonely. And I looked it up. They were 40 and 42 that year, which wasn't bad, but it was like, but I listened to a lot of losses, right? I know exactly what Bill Schonely's voice sounds like as they're like, better luck next time kind of thing. Right? And then that same team, I mean, they kept shuffling, but they went from like, no one cares about them,
right?
A very forgettable team in the NBA to the Western Conference Finals. And they got better every year.
Sure did.
And that was incredible. Like, it was my little secret thing became a thing that they talked about when you were making a withdrawal from the bank, or when you're like, suddenly it was like the city turned to the team, right? And like, this is going to happen, right? Like, I don't know on what schedule, but when everyone's Scoot's age, like, just buckle up. Just like enjoy the show. It's going to be great.
Enjoy the ride. This is when you're a fan of a team. This is the fun part, right? Because you're building, right? This is when we see everything coming and all these young guys, like it's fun times. And, you said this off air. Look, everyone remember when Shaden and Anthony Simons have those explosion games that we've seen, like, we're like, oh my God, these guys are pretty good. And then people say, oh my God, imagine when they do it when Dame's there. No, it happens when Dame isn't there. That is the point. And it's not because Dame's like a ball hog or whatever. It's just that, like, for them to be at their optimal best, well, Dame can't be doing what he does, which is pick and roll, logo Lillard time. Like, they're just standing around like, okay, we're just kind of like afterthoughts. It's going to be way more fun to be a Blazers fan. And whenever they actually trade Lillard, and we're going to get into that now, the haul you get back from him is going to be pretty good, guys. Tons of picks, tons of young talent. Like, now you can, as I say, you're cooking with gas now, right? Like, you can really do some stuff.
I mean, it's competitive. These rebuilding teams are, the Spurs and the Jazz and the Rockets and the Pistons. When we wrote about them, or Dave wrote about them the other day. There are a bunch of the Magic. A bunch of teams are putting together like real bunches of talent, and the Blazers are behind in that. Right? They're good at the guard spot.
And you need some wings and bigs now.
Yeah. I was watching that James Wiseman. I'm like,
we could use that. Actually, what a great timeline for Wiseman and those. Oh man, can you pry him away? Probably not, but
no. You would have had to have gotten him from Golden State.
Golden State.
This is the downside of pretending that you're building around Damian all this time. It's like,
here we go.
He was available, right? Like, there was a chance to get him. And what did they give? It's an unfair quiz. But what did Detroit give up?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
I remember correctly. Not a lot. Yeah. I'll look it up now as we're talking here. But the not a lot. I remember.
Yeah,
you got
that was the move.
Bag of nothing really.
Yeah. This is why it helps to not lie about your rebuild. All right, while you're looking that up, this is the thing that's on my mind. So
let's do it.
Brian Windhorst was on SportsCenter. I think I just saw the little digital clip, basically saying that he supports Dame asking for a trade because the team said it was building around Dame. But if you go and look at the transaction history, really hasn't been for a year and a half. Like, which is it's totally like Josh Hart was good, and then they traded him for a pick, right? And the moves have been rebuild moves,
correct,
for 18 months, like exclusively, other than Jeremy Grant is the one exception. I guess they got Thibault, I guess you could make that case,
but he can't shoot, so whatever.
But so I feel like yes, congratulations, Brian, you're up to speed on like what's been evident, like. But the other thing is, like, I will remind everybody, I may have stirred the pot a little bit by reporting that Dame was considering asking for a trade 2 years ago. And, like, that really happened, right? And they've been on the road to divorce for 2 years. So, and actually, I'll make a new little, it's insignificant in the big picture, but I just would like to focus your attention for a second. Chris Haynes, who talks to Dame all the time.
Literally all the time.
Great guy. I love Chris Haynes. But he could be accused of being a little bit of a Dame homer. But there's what my point is. There's no way he's going to make stuff up that would hurt Dame.
Correct.
That's not happening. 0% chance, right? So Chris Haynes reported the other day on his excellent podcast with Mark Stein that the Dame was going to ask for a trade 2 years ago, except James Harden had just bailed on the Rockets right when they named a black head coach, and it looked bad. Right? Like, there aren't a lot of black head coaches. At that time, there were far fewer.
Yeah.
And so the Blazers were bringing in Chauncey. And so Dame didn't want to do a Harden to Chauncey. He didn't want to bail on him. And so he hit pause, right? I reported that Dame said to friends that he was planning to ask for a trade, right? All of that is true, right? And this Chris Haynes little piece of information means, like, look, this is a guy who's like, I am dissatisfied. Like, I'm only hanging around because I don't want to make Chauncey's life hell, right? I'm here to tell you that, like, both parties, the Blazers, as represented by a rotating crew of GMs over this period, like, and they both took the public strategy of saying they loved the other one because they calculated that their position would be hurt by looking like they were bailing, right? Like, this was a market that is just super touchy, and I can prove that to you too. Dame made a couple comments on Twitter 2 years ago that were not totally loyal, and immediately Dame was shocked by how Portland fans reacted, right? Like, and that's super defensive, right? So to me, it's been super clear. Every national media person would go visit, like, it's such a portrait of loyalty. It's like, you guys are missing the War of the Roses. Like, they are choking each other out behind the scenes here. And, like, I think that Dame does have a whole bunch of family and a bunch of houses and a bunch of friends all in Portland. And, like, I do think there's a part of him that was like, even if it's not perfect, maybe for away from the organization reasons, I would hang around. But the fact is, they were using, like, the meanest leverage you can use to get to inspire the team to try to make changes, which didn't really work, to get this ridiculous extension, which has profoundly hurt his trade value, right? And now it's out in the open, right? And Joe Cronin the whole time was lying, right? Like, but he was lying with this big smile on his face, saying basically, like, yeah, like, we want Dame to retire a Blazer, because if he didn't say that,
Portland fans,
they were gonna get him fired.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we created this insane childish environment. It's like I don't know. It's like going to Disneyland. It's like, well, no one's going to say anything bad about Mickey. It just became this absurd, like, okay, well, it's just like, yeah, that's a real 6 foot walking mouse. Yep. Let's everybody agree on that.
A real 6 foot walking mouse. No, I mean, guys, and it's not whatever. Like, we've done this a million times. Like, we've told you that this is not, because when the story came out 2 years ago from us, okay, False Hoop, where are you going to make your apology to James, to Dame, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, Dame's literal mouthpiece, Chris Haynes, at the time also tweeted the same exact thing.
Dame said it. Like, if you, I mean, the thing that Blazers fans would do is just selectively edit the Dame's game was really easy. He could say whatever he wanted, wherever he wanted, as long as now and again he would just add I want to stay in Poland for the rest of my life. Like he'd like, quoting lyrics saying like, how long do I have to hang on, right? Like, and or whatever. He would do so many flirty things if you looked for them, right? Then he's like, oh no, baby, and we're married. We're totally married. I love marriage. I'm so dedicated. And it's like, oh, you look nice over here. It's like, this guy's not that married. Okay. Like
I love it. I love it. That's good. No, it's good. No, it's look, it was a bad divorce, staying together for the kids' sake, but the kids, I hope, are wise enough now and realize, oh, these two were just talking shit about each other behind each other's backs. Like, right?
They were, man. They were. And it's honestly the worst thing that could happen now. There's only one really, really, really bad outcome, which is they don't get the trade together.
Well, so here's the problem, right? Like, it's clearly going to have to involve another team or a fourth team, possibly, because the money, salary, right? Like so obviously, of course, if you're Miami, like the Kyle Lowry expiring is going to be one of the ones that help make it work. But maybe the Heat don't have enough of the things that Portland wants, so they probably don't, right? So somebody else has to get involved here. And look, if there's another team out there who can give the Blazers more of what they want, okay. And that team, as David always says, they can facilitate going to Miami after that, but we want what we want, because otherwise, what are we going to do here? We can't get back nothing for the franchise's greatest player, arguably.
Well, and like, something will happen. But if this point is that like Miami's combined bag of trade assets is not significant enough, then like, okay, so Miami has $7. This item costs $10. Like, they still can't just give $3 to the third team, and then that team's going to give $6 to the Blazers. like there still has to be like a like Miami just doesn't have very much to give up. That's the problem, right? Yeah. I think the third team thing, it probably will work out. And actually, a non-trivial thing is the Miami's young players are playing well in the summer league. Very so maybe
helpful. Maybe like, oh, let me get all those guys.
They were going to be in the deal anyway, but they were going to be valued very low.
So it's Nikola Jovic, right? It's Highsmith, who played in the finals, right? It's all those guys, and every pick and pick swap going forward for the next 6 years.
And their center, this is a thing that I should have looked up before we got this part
Quizzes.
of the show.
Not Nikola Jovic, the
no,
other one.
He was a two-way player for them. Orlando. Hold on. This is a very professional part of the show.
It is. It's all right. It's like Jeopardy.
Yeah. Do you want to do the music? Orlando Robinson.
Look at that. You even got it done before the music ended.
So Orlando Robinson was 13 for 22 from the floor.
Oh, that's
3 for 4 from 3, 7 for 8 from the free throw line.
We like that.
He had 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 36 points, and he was plus 19 for the game.
We'll take a little Orlando Robinson in there too. Yep.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
I actually think it's. I mean, I don't run the Trailblazers, but for me, if you were to take like basically Kyle Lowry, all the young players who might have any potential whatsoever, and all their picks, that's probably my favorite.
That's your favorite thing. Yeah.
And it's not a fair trade at all. No. But you're keeping a lot of, like, once Kyle Lowry's gone, you have nothing but cap space out of that. And I think that's going to be valuable.
Yeah, very valuable. No, I like it. Well, so we'll see. I mean, the problem with that deal, though, right, is that Joe Cronin doesn't win the press conference with that one, right? Because it's, what's the name? I need the other. Kyle Lowry's not going to win it for me because, to your point, no one's going to care about all the young guys who, one of them is going to be good at some point, and all the picks. No one cares about that. So what's the name? And there is no name in there, which is why a third team has to get involved somehow to get a name. And then whatever, they'll figure it out.
The name is Orlando Robinson.
No.
I'm just kidding.
We know the name.
I know. It's not a name. But that's exactly the kind of player, right? Like that's exact that, one Orlando Robinson is not likely to succeed, but you get 3.
I mean, you get 4 or 5 of these guys, one of them's bound to work out.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. But, fans don't want to hear that
sold
shit.
on is it pronounced Jovic?
I think it's Jovic. Nikola Jovic. Not sold on him.
I know he had like a good game, but it's all these like kind of mid-range turnaround, like not very like he's like this. His release point is not that high, and in summer league it's not getting blocked.
It will.
I'm worried. I could be wrong. I mean, we'll talk to David about it, but I was like,
Well, we shall. And look, this thing's going to take time. Whenever this deal gets done, it's obviously it's going to take some time. As will the other one, right? We're waiting on Harden. He did opt in. We know Daryl Morey is totally fine being completely uncomfortable as he kept Ben Simmons around for however long until he got exactly what he wanted. So it wouldn't surprise me if Harden somehow started the year on this team until they get exactly what they want. It's going to be a disaster if they do. But and Daryl should know that better than anybody. But yeah, this is the challenge though with these big salaried guys at this age of their career, especially now with the way the penalties are, who's taking that into their cap? Who's absorbing that? Who can absorb it? Number one,
not a lot of teams, right? Yeah, I mean he'll end up a Clipper somehow or another.
Somehow, right? They'll do something.
But they're not made of valuable young players either.
I mean, it's going to have to include Terrence Mann, which they probably don't want to give up. But it's like, whoa, that's a guarantee. You got to give up Terrence Mann for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised. I feel like they have long been this team that's just overloaded with like players, right? It's been like the deepest roster in the league, but they're getting older now. It's like Rodney Hood. Like I don't even know.
And the challenge for like these teams who decide to bring in the third star, David Henry. So you said calling David out in this pod.
I can be David.
All those vet free agents that you normally sign now because you can't. Well, Phoenix gobbled almost all of them up, so there's almost nobody left now for you to grab. I mean, there's still guys, but like it's this is the challenge when you wait for the big dominoes to fall, right? It's okay if you get them or you don't. Now you're like, crap. What do we do?
Yeah. Miami's feeling that pretty hard, I would guess. Right? Like they just don't know how to construct their roster right now.
And I mean, look, Dame's phenomenal, but Dame, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, like they're going to be good, but I'm not picking them as East favorites. I'm like, I still like Milwaukee better. I still like Boston better. I don't know.
Yeah.
And there'll be some surprise team come out of nowhere. They'll be like, oh shit, we didn't think about these guys. They're good now.
Yeah. I think the problem is like once you're Jimmy's age, like you're kind of in a long shot environment anyway. So it's like, okay, you're going to take your whatever 5% to win a title and make
you have to roll the dice,
right? Like, it'll be fun to watch. But my guess is that they'll kind of loaf in the regular season because they'll just have to, right? Like,
Yep. And then they'll be like the most dangerous team come. But hey, you screw around, they could have lost in the play-in and not even gotten as far as they did. So you want to figure out how do I get that at least that 6th seed. So I don't have to worry about playing. That's what I'd be thinking. But
they're just going to miss Orlando Robinson is the main.
I hope Orlando Robinson turns out to be a very good player.
Me too.
All right, everybody. We will see you all on Thursday. Talk some more Summer League. Take care.